Welcome everybody back to the Tiz Talk podcast. I got some special guests with me tonight. I got Dr. Dick and Dr. Fit with me tonight. Special guests. I'm super excited to have them on the show. Why don't you both introduce yourselves real quick?
Hey, so I'm Dr. Dick. It's a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you for having me on Tiz Talk podcast. Been a long time listener and happy to finally be on here.
It's always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure.
And this is Dr. Fit. I am a new listener, new follower, and just as excited to be here.
Well, we're glad. The Tiz Talk fam is glad to have both of you guys on the show. I think we want to go over. I mean, I know I dropped a pod last night, but man, it got even crazier today. So I think there's some things we need to talk about. We need to open the curtains, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, going through these 15 days, which apparently is going to be a kind of a testing to see if this is going to work. A new form of social distancing. We are entering unprecedented waters. This has completely never been seen before. We are in uncharted territory here. And, you know, I think that a lot of people might be thinking that these are, you know, rather extreme measures. But I do think that it is absolutely necessary given the pandemic that we are facing today.
Oh, I think it's absolutely necessary to speak to the Tiz Talk fam who listens, just to, you know, inform the fam of what is really going on, because Dr. Dick and Dr. Fit have some really good intel, or maybe not intel, but some input. Let's just call it input on what is going on.
Feelings from the front line.
You know, behind the curtains kind of shit, bro. You know what I'm saying, fam? So what I would like to do, first off, I normally do certain things when I have new guests on the show, but since you're sitting right in front of me, I can't do it because you'll see the answers to the questions. So I know them pretty much off the top of my head. I want to ask you guys a couple questions.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. What do you think the current world population is today?
Current world population, I would guess, is probably about 7 billion.
Okay. What about you, Dr. Fit?
7.5 billion.
Okay. It's actually 7.78 billion people. Y'all were close. You were close. You were a little bit less. If this is The Price is Right, you would have lost. Okay. Births today. Just today.
Like how many people were born today?
How many people were born today on the planet Earth?
How many little babies?
I would go with...
I know these statistics that have done this.
Yeah, I'd probably go with 50,000.
Okay.
I think that's a little high. Probably like 25,000.
Wow, y'all are both so fucking low. All right, it's about 335,000
Oh, wow. Yeah.
births today.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you do know the population continues to grow, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, how many deaths do you think happened today?
Yeah, so, I mean, maybe 250,000 then.
Okay. Dr. Fit?
Population is continuing to grow. I'll probably go a little lower than that, like 200,000.
It's close. It's closer to 200. It's about 190,000 deaths a day. So your net population, you're basically gaining. You're gaining about 10 people every second.
Wow.
That's what's happening right now.
Right.
Even with the coronavirus,
Right.
It's still happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I don't think the full coronavirus has really hit yet. I think we're...
Well, they're saying that we're going to hit 8 billion by 2023.
Okay.
Okay, and I can pull all this shit up. I got the
Was
stats.
this before or after coronavirus?
This is current, whatever you want to call it. Like it's all current shit. But I use this as a baseline. It's worldometers.info, worldometers.info. Current world population. You see that?
Yep.
Okay. What does that say? Births today, 348,000. Yeah, that's pretty on point. I was close, right? I mean, I was just going off my head. 140. Okay, so I was a little off on the deaths, but our net population growth today is we were gaining 201,000 people a day. right? So, I mean, it's interesting stuff. I mean, this thing dives into all sorts of stuffs. This is a really cool website. You should really look into it. And then they're also, everything is sourced. Everything is sourced. Well, yeah, I mean, like I was saying, so 8 billion by 2023, 9 billion by 2037, 10 billion by 2055.
Right.
They're projections. Now, with that being said, fam, how many people do you think how many human beings were alive, let's just say in the year 1890, around the industrial revolution, 1890, 1900, how many humans on their planet at one time?
I'd probably say about 1 billion.
Okay.
What year again?
1890, 1900. That, yeah.
1 billion, we're at 7 billion. 3 billion.
Dr. Dick was right on point. 1 billion was almost exactly where we were at 1900. Okay, now, and that is scary statistic. From the beginning of mankind to 1900, 1 billion people. Now, 120 years later, we're at almost 8. That's fucking scary.
That's a crazy stat.
That's a scary statistic. And being in y'all's field, I mean, that's
People take care of.
whew, that scares the shit out of me. And I mean, if it keeps going, what's going to happen? We're going to run out of food. I mean, I don't know. Is the coronavirus the way to equalize it?
Interesting take on it.
Well, I don't think the coronavirus is that. I think ultimately we have so many set natural resources, and other countries have enacted certain measures to try to curtail this population problem. But I don't think coronavirus, I think this is a huge threat, but I don't necessarily think it's the threat that will take out all of humanity.
No. I mean, it's not like the Black Plague.
No, it's not the Black Plague. Looking at the Black Plague.
Well, the Black Plague was also so long ago, and there was no real health care back then. So
right, and we have modern medicine. I mean, having a modern plague take out 1/3 of the population, it's kind of unrealistic today, not to kind of belittle this pandemic that we're facing today, because it is a large issue. And would you agree that it is a pandemic? Because there's a difference between an epidemic and a pandemic.
By definition,
this is a pandemic.
It's a global problem.
This is a global problem, and people will die.
People are dying.
A lot of people are going to die. Right now, total estimates today are about 7,600 deaths.
So I think it's all underreported, but what I'm getting at is influenza itself kills more people than the coronavirus has on a yearly basis.
So it's an interesting stat, right? So influenza kills about 65,000 people a year based on the statistics that we have.
Or nationally?
I think that's nationally. I think it kills about 65,000 people.
In the United States.
In the United States. Now, based on the most conservative numbers that we have, which is coming out of South Korea, where they're able to test up to 10,000 people a day, we know that the death rate there is about 0.9%. It's about 0.9%. You compare that with the flu, which has a 0.1% death rate.
Right.
So
I heard that.
Right.
I thought that was interesting.
So we're saying now that this is 9 times more deadly than the flu, and that is based on South Korea's numbers. Now they're testing everybody, so they have probably the correct denominator. You look at the estimates that they were saying for here, which is 3.4% death rate. But the thing is, we're not really testing everybody. So there's a lot of asymptomatic carriers. There's a lot of people who have it who are being confused for having something else that aren't necessarily being tested for it. We already a lot of people staying home, and we're just not really.
Well, that's because they're being told to do so now.
Right, but
now that's could you imagine being in China or Italy right now? Oh my God!
Right, and the state of affairs there is obviously very, very disturbing. But I think that based on what is happening, one, with the disease like this that's asymptomatic for so long, the numbers that we're seeing here actually reflect the numbers that were going on about 2 weeks ago. Because as we know that this disease remains asymptomatic for a period of time. So when we say, there's 4,000 cases in the United States, well, there's 4,000 people who are symptomatic from it. 4,000 people are symptomatic from it. So that means that they probably got the disease 5 to 9 days ago, right? So what is the true incidence of people with it now, including the asymptomatic carriers? On top of that, we're not really testing everybody. So why are we saying that Idris Elba has it? Why are we saying that Tom Hanks has it? These are all rich celebrities because these are people with access to the test. Why does the First Lady of Spain has it? Why does Justin Trudeau's wife
Well,
have
I
it?
heard that they were going to start doing these tests now.
And we're going to start rolling them out, but, we can't just...
Like through a nose swab or something.
Well, it's nose swabs, it's throat swabs, and then it will go to a what we call a RT-PCR, reverse transcriptase. And, as we begin to unravel this, we still don't know the sensitivity of these new tests. And so...
It's new.
It's brand new.
We've never done it before.
There's a few other places. There's also 2 places that have their own.
I mean, that fever test that they're doing, like with a little scanner, is how accurate is that?
Oh, that's just testing people's temperature to kind of screen for symptoms.
Yeah, so they
Fever is one of
get
the
this to be
most
like
common
hot
symptoms.
and have a higher temperature, and like in China, I swear to God, fam, if you're in China and you think you got it, or like, don't go turn yourself in because you will disappear. You will disappear. You will disappear. You will end up in a mass grave. They are going to kill you. That's the Tiz talking. Okay, that is my opinion. I think that China and Italy are literally taking these people and just killing them to get rid of the virus. That is their way of getting rid of it. Instead of treating it, they're killing the infected.
I don't know if we can really say that.
Okay, well, okay. We can
all have our own opinion.
All right, that's the Tiz's family.
Yeah.
That's the Tiz's feelings. I think in China that is definitely happening.
Well, so, it's interesting because what's happening in China, and you have to turn back the books to 2003 and see how they kind of responded to the SARS virus back then, but...
And H1N1
the truth is, we really just don't know. But what they are doing that has been shown to be very effective, I don't know if what you're saying here is just conspiracy theory or not. It very likely may be.
It's me being a conspiracy theorist and just staying outside the box.
I think that what they are doing and what they're able to do, for sure, I don't think that, necessarily what you're saying is happening. But what is happening for sure is that they are much better at containment than we are.
I've seen some terrifying videos.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
They're better at containment.
I've seen some terrifying videos of China.
Yeah. It's
of people getting dragged down hallways, like, against their will, like, basically gonna get put to their death.
Well, it's not necessarily that. The reason that they're better at containment is because it's a communist country. You can basically input martial law, and you can kind of control people in a way that you can't really do that in America, which has its pros and its cons. Its pros, obviously, you can contain it more. You can quarantine people. You can kind of, make them do what you want them to do, or I guess I should say the government can make them do what they want them to do. However, in America, that really wouldn't fly.
No, and I agree with that because China is a communist country, so they can do what the fuck they want.
Correct.
It's different here. It's different.
Well, it is different, but even to that extent, right now we are seeing laws put into effect that have never ever been seen before in the history of this country. We are currently closing all bars, restaurants in many cities and states. You look at New Rochelle, where it is complete containment.
It's not complete containment. They're still allowed to rock around.
San Francisco today is announcing only allowed to leave the house for essential travel. Announced today.
They said it's not a. They said they recommend it.
Yeah, it's a
It's a recommendation. It's not an
enforcement. National Guard's in New Rochelle, but people are still allowed to leave their homes. They're just there to help out. They're handing out food and all that kind of stuff.
So there's no enforcement yet.
Yeah.
There's no enforcement yet to not leave.
Maybe no enforcement yet. Now in China, when you leave,
China's a whole different story.
When you leave in China, a drone.
I got clients in China. They cannot fucking leave their fucking house. Okay? They're supposed to be back in Houston running these deals I've done for them, and they can't leave.
And you know what? From a medical perspective, maybe that's the answer. From
What?
a medical perspective, maybe that's the answer, to contain
From a medical
people.
perspective.
Well, I mean, it makes sense.
I don't think our economy is ready to handle that, though.
well,
And you basically come down to a fine balance.
Let me ask
Because
you.
everything that you do from a medical perspective hurts the economy and vice versa.
Let me ask you a question. So they were speculating and coming up with this idea of saying, okay, if everybody just stays self-quarantined for 2 weeks, it'll really reduce the risk
It'll
of
flatten the curve.
spreading the virus
Right.
here in the States.
Right.
That's what they spread.
I don't think
Do
there's
you
any
think that
argument
that's
that'll work.
accurate?
So
Or-
I think what the goal is by our best estimates, 40 to 70% of this country will at some point end up catching coronavirus. 40 to 70%. Now, if you think of 40 to 70% of the country getting it all at one time, okay, in a country where we have 2.8 beds per thousand.
Well, the incubation period is the scariest part about the whole thing.
Well, if everybody gets this virus at once, the healthcare system will be overloaded, and
Only if there's a bunch of sick.
not necessarily.
Hey, fam, I fucked my wrist up, dude, and I need to go get an X-ray, and I'm scared to go to the doctor because I don't want to go in a room full of sick ass coronavirus patients.
Well, I think you might be right in that. All non-essential trips to the doctor should probably be postponed.
Yeah, but how long can I postpone this shit, Dr. Dick?
Well, I mean,
It hurts when you fucking. I mean, yeah. Tis fam, I did some dumb shit. I punched a dumb punching bag a couple weeks ago. anyways, that being said, and yeah, my wrist is fucked up. So, Dr. Dick, what do you suggest I do?
yeah. So it's interesting, and one of the things that the government is trying to roll out in this time of crisis is telemedicine. And is this the advent of telemedicine as we know it? And what I mean by that is, getting treatment at home virtually. And a lot of physicians and a lot of people in the medical field feel like this is going to be telemedicine's time to shine, where you don't have to actually go into the doctor and risk potentially being, exposed to coronavirus in the waiting room. And so this
My
might be it.
point exactly why I don't want to go to the doctor and get my
Does your
wrist
doctor
checked.
have like telemedicine, or can you do like an online questionnaire?
I could go to a one of those.
Sometimes they have urgent cares, too.
Yeah, the urgent cares. They my
You should
health-
look through your if people.
No.
are looking for stuff
I'm
like that.
eligible for it. It's actually cheaper to do it that way. But that being said, I just wanted y'all's perspective on what's going on with this goddamn coronavirus, right?
Right.
Because not only has it shooken up the world, it's shooken up the markets.
Right.
And with that being said, I mean, are we heading into a recession? Or are we going to bypass that and go into a depression? Because Dow, as you said today, lost the most points in history, but another source said since 1987. So what's the deal?
The deal is
The deal is asterisk. We're both MDs, not finance people, but we know a thing or two about finance. And either way, it's not good.
yeah. So Dr. Fit, what do you think is going to happen here with the economy?
So there's two theories, right? There's one that there's this, what is it, pent up supply or pent up demand.
Right. So pent up demand is kind of what Donald Trump was touting in his talk today at the press conference. That although we are not able to continuously spend our money and buy all these goods, eventually once the coronavirus passes, there will be so much demand that is built up over time, and eventually, once this whole thing clears, everybody's going to go back to the market, spend all their money, and the economy will recover 100%.
So for both of y'all being kind of like, you have a lot of information and you're wise in the medical industry. That's the best way I can put it, I guess. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, we haven't seen anything like this, right? So what I'm getting at is this the media overplaying it, or is this real?
I think either way, we gotta kind of act like it is real, no matter what, especially from a medical perspective.
I have two theories. One, the media's hyped it up to the point to where it's overblown. One, because they want the ratings and they want people to watch the news constantly. Two, it's underreported, either purposely or unpurposely, because they just don't fucking know. And those are my two theories. And
I mean, those are the only possible options, right?
well, I mean, I know. I mean, but again, it's a peek behind the curtains. Is there an alternative motive that the global, decision makers
I'm sure there's a lot of conspiracy
are going to
theories out
use
there about
this to take advantage when this settles
Right. So I think that there's going
for
to
the
be
global economy.
there will be a lot of consequences of this, many of which are kind of hard to predict. But as far as this being a real threat, I don't think this is media overhype whatsoever.
We have to treat it like it's a real threat because that's the only option in the healthcare profession is to act like it's going to be a real threat. And if we look back on it and say that we were overprepared, then good, and over freaked out, then good. But from a medical perspective, you have to do the most safe thing to save and do the least harm to the most amount of people, if that makes sense.
And I agree with that. I mean, I have stayed away from all public places in the past couple weeks. I've just been chilling home, doing my thing, smoking ganj, and that's me. That's Tiz. And just chilling, But I don't want to be out in public. I don't want to be around a bunch of people. I mean, I might even have this shit and not even know it.
Yeah, I hope not, because I'm sitting next to you.
Well, you might have it and giving it to me.
Right. And, the whole thing about staying home, we look at the
Social
concept
distancing.
of super spreaders. St. Patrick's Day is coming up, and you can look back at the Philadelphia parade where they didn't cancel it. And 600 people in the Navy got the Spanish flu right after. So that's why we kind of have to tone down these mass
Well,
gatherings.
that's just a
of people.
great example of why social distancing is important, because that's...
Sorry, fam. I just cracked open a fucking White Claw. That's an epidemic White Claw. Sorry, I'm drinking one.
Right, and so, Austria just banned gatherings of 5 people. Donald Trump is now recommending no more than 10 people gather in one place, and this is kind of why. These policies actually will probably end up being very beneficial to us in this fight against this invisible enemy.
I agree with that, but that's just us. What about the rest of the world?
Well, the rest of the world aren't our problem, technically.
Well, no, yes,
But,
they are, and
as of
they
right
really
now,
are,
we
though,
can-
because
it's our problem to secure our borders and decide who we're letting in, who we're not letting in, which I think we're.
I mean, it's a global problem.
It is a
regardless.
global problem.
We get,
but all we can control
fix it.
is America and our own actions
Right.
in America, and it's the land of the free. So we can't make people not leave their houses. We're not going to do martial law like China. We're not going to
Want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors over at FNX Fit. FNX Fit is the jam. If you haven't heard about them, you're about to hear about them. So listen to them.
Episode of the Tiz Talk podcast is brought to you by our sponsors over at FNX Fit. FNX Fit is committed to creating innovative supplements of the highest quality that provide focus for a productive morning, energy to thrive all day, performance supplements to reach new goals, unique sleep and recovery formulas to support any sport, and healthy supplements to support an active lifestyle for years to come. All of their products use natural ingredients, and all their products are made within the USA. I personally have been using their Rebalance Super Green. And fam, I don't know if you've tried other greens products, but usually they're real chalky and they don't really mix well, like with the water, especially cold water. Well, their Rebalance Super Greens mix perfectly with cold water. They're kind of unlike any other I've ever tried. It's just like the right amount of sweet and has made an incredible snack replacement for me, especially, if I'm feeling groggy in the morning or, had a little bit too much to drink the night before. Just pour a little scoop of that in a glass of cold water, stir it up, put it down, and you're on your feet and ready to go, in about 10 minutes. It feels amazing. Highly recommend this product, but they have many other ones to check out. 663 million people live without clean water. That's nearly 1 in 10, fam. Nearly 1 in 10 people on the planet. They want to change that. Every time a purchase is made at fnxfit.com, a child in need receives 1 gallon of clean drinking water thanks to their partners. To date, they have donated over 265,000 gallons of clean drinking water. So go over to fnxfit.com and check out their products. They got a whole line of products from clothing to protein powders to green powders and much more. And if you want to get your Tiz Talk 15% discount, you got to use my plug, which is fnxrelief.grsm.io/tiztalk. Again, that's fnxrelief.grsm.io/tiztalk to get your 15% off all of their products.
Well, they put martial law in effect in New Jersey. They just announced that tonight.
Martial law?
Yeah, there's martial law in in the state of New Jersey right now.
You mean the curfews that they are recommending?
No,
or?
the government, the goddamn fucking military
Can I
is
see the
in New
site for
Jersey. Yeah, it's on one of these tabs I have open here.
Oh, Vice. You know
Yeah,
that source.
I'm a big Vice guy. I'm a big Vice guy. I just don't know which tab it is, but they did, I swear.
Because we knew in Hoboken yesterday they were recommending a curfew, which is different than martial law.
I might not have it on this tab. Oops, I just closed one out. That's not good. Well, regardless, I did see that. I did. So martial law has been declared in the state of New Jersey.
I would like to see that source before.
Okay, well, let's look
Either
it up.
way.
No. Fact check. New Jersey martial.
Oh
Now-
yeah, there's a. I just did a quick Google search. New Jersey is essentially under martial law from Corvette Forum.
Yeah, there you
So
go. See?
I don't really know if that's a reliable source.
I mean, it might not be a reliable source, but it's being talked about.
Yeah, I mean that's the.
It basically says New Jersey issues an 8 p.m.
Don't be scared,
curfew.
people, dude.
New Jersey issues an 8 p.m. curfew to restrict travel and
Yeah,
fight
that's a
disparity.
curfew. That's not a martial law. That's recommended that you don't go outside.
I mean,
don't
it
do
said
non-essential
martial
travel.
law on the title of
This is consistent
it.
with all the recommendations that we've been making across the nation right now.
Okay,
There's nothing to be freaked
All
out
right. I think we're on the same page. All right, so now let's dip into something a little different.
You wanted
a little
Dr.
bit.
Fit on the podcast? She gonna give you her opinion.
Dr. Fit, she's spitting the truth, Tiz fam. She's spitting the truth.
Him calling out these conspiracy theories.
So NASA is apparently grounding climate change missions due to the coronavirus.
That's fine by me. It's
Yeah.
probably not necessary to do
I
any.
mean,
climate change.
these are drones, though. These are unmanned.
Yeah, but why
Machine-
We need to be putting all of
Yeah.
our energy and resources into defeating this.
The coronavirus has postponed airborne NASA missions to study sea level rise and extreme weather delaying the delivery of data and models.
Yeah, I mean, climate
But-
change
but
right
they're
now.
unmanned.
You don't need to worry about climate change if we kill off if half the population dies.
I don't think you
Really.
have to pay population.
Yeah,
is
I mean,
gonna
I think
die.
we need to be able to control.
Yeah, and
this
okay,
first, and then we can-
here's another headline.
Climate change will always be there.
New
if people
York-
are staying in their houses and people aren't traveling as much anyway, the emissions are going to be lower.
Oh, everything's been canceled. But here's another one. New York is now the epicenter of the
That doesn't surprise me at all.
coronavirus crisis in the U.S. Coronavirus crisis. God damn it! I can't talk. I am too stoned. New York is now the epicenter of the coronavirus crisis in the U.S. The governor is basically shutting down all nightlife as cases climb to nearly 1,000.
Yeah, that
half of them in New York City.
New York City is like people living on top of each other, and it doesn't surprise me at all that New York City is the epicenter of this spread. You got the subways that are cesspools to begin with. You got people touching all these things. It can live on surfaces for what? Dr. Dick, how many hours can it live on a surface again?
By our best estimates, it can live on surfaces for 4 to 20 hours. 4 to
That's
20.
called a fomite for all of the people out there that want to know the technical term. Or
Well,
if you've been watching Contagion, it's the same thing.
I've seen the movie Contagion. That shit scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's
It was
eerily
way
similar.
worse than what was that movie in 1996? The Outbreak.
Yeah.
Contagion scared the shit out of
Well,
me. Way more.
Contagion's scary because there's a lot of parallels to actually what's going on now. We just watched.
It's more realistic. It's a more realistic.
way more
movie.
realistic. eerily similar because it's also started.
Now,
in
are we
China.
gonna have a zombie apocalypse?
I don't think this is turning people into zombies, but that is.
It was a joke question, but I mean.
But maybe
really?
there's a virus that comes along down the
So
road.
another article, the White House is asking, quote unquote, millennials, yes, you millennials, stay home, stop coronavirus. The administration unveiled new nationwide guidelines Monday that call for all Americans to avoid crowds of 10 people or more for at least 2 weeks. That's what we were just talking about.
And that's
we agree,
important.
yeah.
And
Social distancing.
things to remember as far as that goes is in every pandemic that we've seen, there's always been this, and I think we mentioned it earlier, the concept of the super spreader. And we don't know why, whether it is the virus, whether it is the host, whether it is how many people they're coming in contact with. There are these people, generally about 20%, who spread 80% of the disease. 20% spreading 80% of the disease. We've seen it time and time again, and we've seen it in South Korea, which is why it's so important to try to contain these super spreaders.
Yeah,
to try to
well,
prevent that.
the whole thing with the millennials is coming out of the data that's coming out of South Korea. They found that about 29% of people in the 20 to 29 age group are actually carrying the virus and not showing any symptoms, called asymptomatic carrier, which could be somebody that could be what Dr. Dick is referring to as a super spreader. So, in order to
Well, the
flex-
incubation period, is that what you're speaking of?
Right.
That's
So
not necessarily the incubation
Well, but
period.
you just
They're
don't
not-
know
can
you
be-
have it.
Well-
Right. Well, no, that has nothing to do. It doesn't really have to do with the incubation period. You could literally have the virus and never show symptoms. That's what asymptomatic carrier.
But that's the
is.
scariest
so-
thing about this.
So every
Which
virus,
is why millennials should stay home.
And
So
the
ev-
normal flu, when you get it, you like get it.
you
Like,
get
feel it.
well, it has a lower asymptomatic time. But what I'm talking about is the R naught, which is generally how many
Do not bring this up. This is
people
gonna be way
will
above the head.
you
This is
spread.
some epidemiology shit. Those.
Well, I think it's important to understand. R naught is essentially a
As long
epidemiological.
as he's
This is an
doing his due
epidemiological
diligence and he's not
term for
going
how
above
many
line.
people will one person generally spread the virus to. Okay, that's R naught. And when you look at the influenza, the R naught for that is 1. When you look at this coronavirus they're working at, the R naught is 3.
No, I thought it was 4 because 2.
3 or 4.
I thought Ebola was 3 and coronavirus
Smallpox
was
is
4.
Now you look at what happened in New Rochelle. You have one attorney going back, a super spreader, who is essentially now goes to a synagogue and has spread the coronavirus throughout the community, leading to the situation of this 1 mile radius containment zone. That's all from one attorney. Okay, so it goes to show how powerful just one person with the disease can have it. Even in Houston, Texas, we think there was a super spreader
Dude, we just got a case of Matagorda.
at the rodeo. We think there's a super spreader at the
Matagorda. We're by
rodeo.
River House.
This is all just like through the way the virus is.
But do you guys think the media is hyping this shit out?
I think that
It
the
doesn't
media
really
is
matter.
appropriately concerned.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
I think they're hyping it up to an extent, and they're underreporting everything.
Well, it depends whose
whether
media you're
they're
looking
doing it purposely or whether they're doing it because they just don't know. But I think that they're hyping it up, and that's my opinion. It's my opinion.
No, it's going to be interesting to see how. Now we have the NBA canceled or postponed.
Everything.
The NHL.
Oh, I mean,
Canceled.
everything.
Every
What are we
sports.
going to do? Question number 1: will the Olympics be canceled? And question number 2:
Probably.
What are we going to do about our elections?
I
That's
don't
all the way in
know.
November, but there's a lot of primaries that are getting canceled. Not surprising.
Well, Bernie's and Biden's wasn't last night. They got into a huge argument.
Oh, the debate was, yeah, but a lot of places are canceling their primaries because obviously those draw crowds, and
I was watching WWE Monday Night Raw a little bit earlier tonight, and they were running it out of an empty stadium. It was just like
yeah, I mean,
4
this is
guys
all
in a ring,
appropriate-
no audience.
These are all appropriate measures to take.
I mean,
when
it
we're
is.
talking about this.
It is. China's air quality is about to get a whole lot worse because of coronavirus. Authorities are suspending enforcement of environmental rules while factories make up for lost production during coronavirus pandemic. Now, I don't know what that means.
Basically, China's air quality sucks to begin with, and now
Well,
it's
it does. So basically,
Yeah, so-
they're just pumping more into it.
yeah. So this, if you want to go back on the topic of climate change, America is not the biggest offender. However, China is a giant offender.
Well, China is where it started.
Yeah. And so they are basically saying that it's more important for them to make money than to maintain the air quality measures that they originally set in because
Well, I think more important than the air quality thing is regulation of these wet markets where the zoonotic disease can spread from animal to man. And, many of these viruses which have been threatening us, from Ebola to Corona to even HIV, these are coming from animals.
Derived from China.
We think
most
the
part.
HIV crisis.
HIV is a different.
HIV spread 3 times in human history, as far as
Spread
we
it.
know.
Let's put HIV aside.
Yeah.
Every other swine flu, the fucking bird flu, the Ebola crisis, the SARS, they all derive from China.
Well, a lot of those do. The 1918 Spanish flu, actually, we believe, came somewhere from the Midwest.
That's 1918. I'm talking about way before.
Right.
way
So,
after.
but this market, it appears that this somehow came from bat, and
Which went to another animal, which went to a fucking food market in Wuhan. Where they were,
the food market has all these
Live animals.
all in the same place with humans.
Right.
Anytime you have a situation like that, you're begging for some sort of virus, zoonotic.
So I'm
emerge.
kind of curious to why China hadn't stopped this shit.
well, so they, after the 2003 SARS outbreak, they actually did, and then they actually reversed it. Now the history there is pretty interesting.
Okay.
You've got a communist government, and ultimately the wildlife industry was banned for a little bit, and then it was one particular animal which they believe spread SARS. They outright banned it. But at the end of the day, ultimately the rich and the powerful enjoy these markets, and so here we are.
Well, fam, you heard it from Dr. Dick and Dr. Fit. The White House is flat out denying that it's considering a national curfew. Meanwhile, some state and local government are considering or have already enacted similar measures. I mean, we live in the 4th largest city in the country. This is Houston, Texas. There's no curfews going on right now. I'm not scared of this shit.
Well, I don't think this administration's going to be the type that'll instill a national curfew. They're going to leave it to the states and the cities themselves to do it.
Well, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. But another topic, how do you stop your boomer parents from spreading fake coronavirus news? 4 ways to survive social media. What is that? What is that word? Infodemic? Infodemic. I'm so bad at speaking these weird words. I'm not gonna read the article, but basically these baby boomers, who are in their 60s, maybe 70s, lower 70s, they're the ones that are gonna be affected more highly. They can get affected by this more so than younger people. Dr. Dick, are you paying attention?
I'm paying attention.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to move on to the next topic then. The next segment of the evening. Coronavirus exposes the stark differences between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. And that was during the debate. Now, I'm not going to get into this. If you want to watch it, go watch the debate. Because they were, yelling at each other. I watched it last night. It was pretty funny. I'm going over headlines, guys. I'm going over headlines. Italy today. This is 3/16/2020. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin Day. 3/16, baby. Smash those beer togethers and chug them, bruh. Italy reports 368 coronavirus deaths in a single day despite their lockdown. Italy's civil protection chief Angelo Borelli also announces some 3,590 newly confirmed coronaviruses, bringing the total number of infected people to 24,747. Italy is having the hardest time.
Yeah.
I think more than China right now. Well, I don't know. That's a hard statement to say.
Well, the numbers that are coming out of Italy are pretty concerning.
They are.
They're very concerning. But, I think that they're responding appropriately at this point. And, gotta hope for the best. But the situation definitely right now looks a little bleak.
Another article. Top coronavirus task force expert says, please stop socializing. And it makes sense. I mean, you do really need to stop going to the gym and socializing and just quarantine yourself for 2 weeks and let this shit just kind of die off a little bit. Am I right or am I wrong? Top coronavirus task force expert says, please, quote unquote, stop socializing.
Right, and so, that kind of goes back to what we've been saying that...
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and I agree with them.
So another thing is China is now shipping coronavirus test kits and masks to the U.S. Now, we already heard these masks don't do shit. Because the microbes are so small, you can still absorb them. Now, the only thing is if you have it and you have the mask on, it might help from spreading it.
Well, it's an interesting question. So what we do know, or at least what we think, is that these masks, what they can do is if you are sick, they prevent transmission to others. But do they prevent you from acquiring it? Now, I don't know. But what I do know is that the recommendation at this point is essentially that if you have an N95 respirator, generally that's been pretty good at preventing picking it up. But, now they are saying for healthcare workers, due to a national shortage, that a general surgical mask is a suitable alternative. That's what the CDC guidelines recently just said, due to a shortage of these masks.
With the CDC, well, while you're on the CDC, they're also saying the CDC says cancel your wedding. New guidelines from agency recommends postponing or canceling gatherings of more than 50 people. I am affected by this. My buddy, I'm not going to say his name, he was supposed to be married at the end of April, and his bachelor party was in 2 weeks. And we've had to cancel and postpone everything. The bachelor party was going to be in New Orleans, and it's all canceled. I understand that. I mean, I don't want to go on Bourbon Street with a bunch of dirty-ass motherfuckers.
Well, Bourbon Street is closed as of right now.
Well, I know that, and that's why we're not going.
Yeah.
So that's one thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's one thing. And the other thing about this, wedding season coming up is that many of these wedding dresses are actually made in China. And who knows what's going to happen with production there.
Are wedding dresses made in China?
A lot of them are.
Now, the one thing I want to bring up to you guys is somebody sent me this, and I don't really trust Apple News, but they sent me this. Before Trump's inauguration, a warning: the worst influenza pandemic since 1918 is coming. In a tablet. Oh, God. I'm so bad at reading.
All right, we got to close this podcast up soon, bro.
All right, we're done. But all I'm saying is basically there was a warning that when Trump did his inauguration speech in 2017 in January, that he was informed that there was a risk of this. And do you guys know about the book of The Eyes of Darkness by Dean Koontz?
Heard about this one, yeah.
I haven't heard about this, but I know Dr. Fit has.
Yeah.
So my father is a big Dean Koontz fan. And he's read all of his books. And I mentioned it to him. I was like, did you read The Eyes of Darkness? And he goes, I probably have. I just don't remember. I was like, well, he basically predicted the coronavirus. And it even says the year 2020 in it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I saw the clip.
I mean, now in the book, they use it as a biological weapon. But but
Yeah,
it's
there's a lot of
still
differences
crazy. The
between-
year, the Wuhan, it was, that's. I was told not to believe in coincidences years ago, and that is a coincidence that I don't know. I don't know. I mean, what do y'all think about that? I mean, was this something that's been orchestrated for the past 30, 40 years?
Probably not.
Probably not. You're right, but I mean, how is someone writing a fictional novel that has come so true 40 years later?
How many movies have we had about the similar thing happening?
Yeah, but this is like to the point.
I'm sure if he was ever around Wuhan, China back then, there was probably these markets.
Yeah,
And it probably wasn't unheard of.
You're probably right. All right. Well, anyways, guys, we're gonna end the show. The one thing I do want to say before we leave is, I mean, you guys follow the markets?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm pissed off for one reason only. I should have thrown all of my money into I should have shorted the market, because a week ago, the VIX, the VIX market, which is basically the shorting of the market,
Yeah.
was at $17 a share. It's at $84 a share now in a week. That's like 600. That's 6 times what it could have been. I mean, I could have thrown $100,000 and walked away with $500,000 profit. It's like The Big Short, the movie.
Yeah, I mean, the market is very volatile right now. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down.
This shit is not going down. It is continuously going up. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, I'm not touching on any of that until I've paid off my
You,
student loans.
you don't have to touch on it, but I want to just give you a good scope. Do you see this?
I do see it.
Hold on. Look at this. Look at that line. Oops, sorry. My bad. Oh, no, I'm on the wrong... no, I'm on the right one. Look at this. You see how steep it rises in the past, 7 days?
Yeah, I mean, if you could predict that a global pandemic is going to destroy the American
It's not
economy,
not like shorting the housing market. This is something that you could have caught wind of because the market was doing shitty a week ago.
Yeah, but you never know when it's going to bounce back up.
Look at the chart.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very easy to play Monday morning quarterback and say, hey, I should have invested in short.
No, I get it. I get that. I'm mad at myself, but at the end of the day, TizTalk fam, thank you for listening. Dr. Dick,
Yeah.
Dr. Fit.
Thanks for having us. It's always great
Appreciate
being on the TizTalk podcast. Love tuning into the show and happy to be here.
Why, I appreciate your input. Do you have anything else to say? Because at the end of my shows, I like everybody to say their peace be with you or whatever you want.
Yeah,
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands is
Use
the
hand
closing.
sanitizer.
Okay, let's go one by one.
Yeah.
Dr. Dick, go ahead.
Wash your hands. Use hand sanitizer. Travel as rarely as possible. Social distance, and remember, America and the world has faced many challenges in the past, and we've survived them all. And this is a tough one, but we'll make it through.
All right, Dr. Fred, what do you got to say? For your ending statement.
Echo what Dr. Dick said, as well
Dr.
as
Dick.
during this social distancing time, kind of try to remember that we're all human, and if you are at all feeling depressed, don't afraid to reach out. In this day and age, we have a lot of technology that can connect a lot of people, and you're never really alone, even if you're physically alone. So I think it's important.
Oh, that was very nicely said. That was very, very, very nicely said. As the TizTalk fam, Chuck Tiz, always says, I got a couple things to say. One, get your mind correct. Okay? Don't do anything stupid. Get your mind correct. When you get your mind correct, keep your mind correct. And don't ask why. Ask why not. On that note, we're out. Peace out, Tiz fam. We will see you next time. Later.
Tiz Talk Podcast.